I'm sure you always speak the truth. Do you? Think about it. And I'm sure you are saying to yourself, well, usually yes, but it's not always the case, right? And if I say that I always speak the truth, would you agree? I'm sure you are thinking, well, this lady might always be speaking the truth, but at least right now she is lying. Well, before deciding whether we speak the truth or not, let us first understand what truth really means. And even before that, let's understand why we are talking about it. It is because Maharishi Patanjali, the father of modern yoga, has prescribed a code of conduct that an individual must ensure to follow before he can even proceed towards achieving the state of dhyan. This includes 5 Yamas and 5 Niyamas, the rules that define the proper conduct towards the society and towards the self. Satya or truth being one of the Yamas. Although these rules are the prerequisites, but I'm sure you won't have seen anyone being asked to follow any such rule before he can join a yoga class, right? To understand this, we need to know the difference between Hatha Yoga and Raj Yoga and acknowledge the fact that we practice Hatha Yoga only for health management, which is definitely very important for us today, but trivial in terms of the real aim of yoga practices. I'll cover this topic in detail in one of the future episodes, but before that, let us understand these rules. Because no matter what you do in your life, if you want to enhance your experience and live a more meaningful life, then these rules are worth applying. Generally, when we talk about speaking the truth, we only consider the communication we do with others. That's definitely an important aspect, but where does this communication start from? Every word that we speak starts with our thoughts, isn't it? Speaking is just a way of expressing what we already have in mind to the world outside us. When we speak or express ourselves through any other medium, we become the sender of the communication, and the other person listening to us becomes the receiver. But before that, when the words are in the form of thoughts, we are both the sender and the receiver. When a thought is generated within us, we contemplate and refine it before translating it into words. And in this process, we are communicating with ourselves. This is what I like to emphasize more when we talk about being truthful. Now you might wonder, what's the big deal here? The big deal is, most of the time, we are not conscious of our own thoughts. And if we are not aware of our own thoughts, how can we be truthful to ourselves? I give you an example here. We all have flaws or areas of improvements, right? But how many of us are conscious and aware of them? Haven't you seen people who are short-tempered, but they will never agree that they have this problem? What's the reason? At times, they might be egoistic to accept, but most of the time, it's because of the lack of consciousness. They themselves don't know that they have this characteristic. Anger is considered to be a negative attribute, but that's not my point here. I'll talk about it later as to why the real problem is not anger but something else. For now, the point is whether I know or not within myself that I am short-tempered. And if I don't know it, am I not lying to myself or at least hiding something that I should know about myself? In my opinion, that's the deeper and more important meaning of being truthful. Speaking truth to our own self. Once this is fixed, every other communication will be taken care of. And it's not just about knowing and acknowledging our flaws. It's about being conscious of every single thought and emotion. Many times we speak or act in a way that leaves us surprised, sometimes regretful as well, only because we don't pay enough attention to what is going on inside us. Now, the point is, what can I do? I'm not intentionally lying to myself. But the problem is, identifying and acknowledging our own thoughts and emotions is the most basic but the most difficult task. It needs first the consciousness, which enhances with the practice of introspection, and secondly, being absolutely straightforward to yourself, whether you like it or not. Usually, when a negative or disturbing thought comes to our mind, we tend to ignore it. But that single thought might indicate a deep rooted problem. You must have noticed that the thoughts or problems that you ignored sometimes because they looked small became bigger issues than you ever thought. Because ignorance can never be a solution. You can either fix it or accept it, but don't ignore it. Definitely, this is not easy. It might take months or even years to even start knowing your true self. And also, it's not something that you achieve one day and it remains forever with you. It's a continuous journey. But if you are someone who strives for improvement, you will keep trying and be successful. If you are not able to find anything that you didn't know about yourself earlier, trust me, your process of introspection is biased. You are probably not speaking the truth to yourself. Introspection is one of the 5 Yamas or the codes of conduct towards the self given by Maharishi Patanjali and is called Swadhyaya. Generally, people translate it as doing the self-study of scriptures and ancient texts, but my understanding says that it means to study the self, not self-study of scriptures. Because Swa means self and Adhyay means something which is being studied. The purpose of yogic practices is to take our consciousness inward, rather than focusing on the outer gross world. And to reach the highest goal, the supreme consciousness, we have to rise above our thoughts, emotions, and memories, which is possible only by becoming aware of them, by studying them, not by ignoring or suppressing them. Now, this was about our own self. Now, let's talk about speaking the truth at the gross level. What we communicate with others is just a subset of what we communicate with our own self, isn't it? If we think before speaking, we filter out the right information or the right way of sharing the information with others. We don't just speak out every single thought that comes to mind, right? Some people think that filtering out our thoughts while speaking them out means that we are not truthful, because we are manipulating what we have to say. And that's why it's never possible for us to be completely truthful if we have to live a social life. Because of course we can't always tell our boss what a nonsense idea it was. But I feel that this conflict arises only when you take things too literally. What we speak out might depend on the person we are communicating with. Not everyone is authorized to know everything. It is like a bank's server which has all the information of all its customers, but it will share your information only with you and no one else. Also, every kind of person cannot be dealt with in the same way. As an example, if you want to share feedback with a person, you have to consider the best way to communicate with him, depending on how the person is likely to take it. So when we communicate with people in our social circle and workplace, we need to judge what and how to communicate. But just make sure not to manipulate facts while communicating. There are many people who unnecessarily change or hide facts when they communicate with people. I have seen people who won't even tell you the price of their dress correctly or which book they are going to read next, and I never understand what they earn out of it. For me, the best advantage of avoiding manipulation and distorting facts while communicating with others is that you don't need to memorize anything. When you share different facts about the same thing with different people, you need to memorize what you shared with who, and you unnecessarily create complexity in your thoughts. In order to have a peaceful and calm mind, it's necessary that we minimize the number of thoughts. This is what I try to follow in my personal and professional lives, to share information as it is, of course, with the right people. This makes my life less complex. We appreciate and expect transparency and integrity from others, right? So why not start with our own self? To become meditative and to achieve the state of dhyan, thoughts and memories are the most prominent obstacles. Of course, the state of dhyan is a thoughtless state, and that's why no wonder that Maharishi Patanjali has prescribed ways to minimize our thoughts if we aim for spiritual growth. And even if you don't aim for it, you must be willing to be peaceful, right? So this is something that we must strive to follow in our life if we want to be peaceful. In the next episode, we'll talk about the next yama, non-violence, and its vast meaning. Till then, just ponder upon the thought how being untruthful can make you violent as well. Is killing someone the only form of violence? And do people take the term non-violence too literally? We'll talk about all of these. Stay conscious of every single thought and emotion of yours, no matter how small or unpleasant it is. If you suppress them, they will only multiply. And today, do not forget to introspect when you go to bed. Stay tuned and have a nice time.